of these steps, you're not going to get a loaf of bread. So you have to start out by softening the yeast, and the water has to be the right temperature. Then you make it into a slurry. You incorporate the flour and make it into the dough. Then you have to knead the dough. You have to knead it for a certain amount of time until certain things happen. Then you have to let this dough rise. Now, and as you go through this process, and there's more steps to it, but I'm not going to go through all of it. But as you go through this process, if you miss one of these steps, then you're not going to have a loaf of bread. You're just going to have a blob of dough. It's not going to be a loaf of bread. So it's important when you make this loaf of bread that you follow each step exactly as it says, and it has to go through the process in order to end up with that loaf of bread. Well, when it comes to this new world order, this one world government, this one world religious leader, this is the same kind of process, where in order for this to be in place for this Antichrist during this 7-year period, you have to go through this process first. This is why Jesus says in Matthew about all of the things that are going to happen, the pestilence, the earthquakes, the wars and rumors of wars, all of these things that he says when you see all of these things come to pass, he's telling us right there this is a process. Because we've had these things happening for years, but never all together the way they are now. And this is what makes this end-time prophecy just chilling. It'll give you goosebumps when you think about this end-time process that we're in. Because we are seeing all of them. I mean, all the way from Isaiah and Daniel and Ezekiel and all of the New Testament prophecies. We're seeing all of these things coming together all at the same time. And you would, if you're so blind that you can't see what's going on, then maybe you should do what the government's telling you to do. Just sit down and shut up. Just listen. Try to comprehend. Try to get a handle on this. Most of you, the people that come to this program and listen to me all the time are a little bit smarter than everyone else. There's a problem in the world today, especially in the United States, through the indoctrination education system that we've been in for the last generation, where they've taken critical thought out of the equation. And people have come through this education system over the last generation without using critical thought. I can go to a high schooler today and put a math problem out in front of them, and they'll say, I can figure that out. Give me a calculator. Well, a calculator, you have to have a calculator to work this out. And they'll say, well, yeah, we use them in school all the time, because they're taking this analytical, critical thought out of the process. Where I'll give you an example. I was in the dentist office a month or so ago, and the girl was figuring out my bill, and she had this. It was a simple equation, to deduct the amount I owe above and beyond the insurance. And I was watching her do it, and I was looking down at the piece of paper, and she's got the calculator out, and she's punching in numbers, and I said, it's $129. Because I could look at it and see it. And she says, just a minute. And she punches it up on the thing, and it comes up $129. Well, this was a simple equation. But she couldn't do it without this calculator, because the thought process has been shortened. It's been circumcised, if you will, so that the critical thought doesn't come anymore. So the people that listen to this program, 99% of you have this ability of critical thought to see the quote-unquote unintended consequences of things that are happening, where other people don't. They go by what they're told. Somebody says, well, this is no big deal, and everything is going to be fine. Don't worry about this. We're the government. We've checked this out. We know what we're doing. We're professional politicians. Sit down and shut up. And that's pretty much what the sheeple do. They sit down and they shut up, and they take it for what it says. In the meantime, our government, the globalists, the UN, all of the people who want this new world order, are they're not even working hard at this because they don't need to. There's no need to put an extraordinary amount of effort into bringing about this new world order because critical thought is gone. People are not thinking about these things anymore. So when the whole appointment of John Brennan came up, of course the media is not going to say anything about it because, the media is now just talking heads. It used to be back in the day, 20, 30 years ago, that the person that was reporting the news to you on the air was the same person that went out and did the research and dug up the story and brought it forward and said, here's the story I have that I've worked hard on. I would like to put this on the air in the news tonight. And the editor would say, that's a great story, put it on there. Or, that's not a very good story, you're an idiot, go try again. Well, it's not like that now. These are talking heads, and the corporate media, who owns virtually Hollywood, most of radio, and all of television, they set the news in front of these people and say, here's the news, just read it. Now, I'm not discounting the intelligence necessarily of the people who are reading the news. All I'm saying is this is news that's given to them, not news that they've discovered and developed themselves. And this is what's really critically important here, because we're only getting the news that the corporate-owned media wants us to know. This is an indoctrination, the same as the education system has been an indoctrination. And the education system and government and the media are all in this working towards the same goal. They're using different methods because they're different entities, but the goal is the same. John Kerry. Boy, you want to talk about somebody who's just sliding right into the jello. I mean, do you realize that John Kerry came out and is so proud of himself because we are sending millions and millions of dollars to Egypt in foreign aid. Same Egypt who is crucifying Christians on a cross in front of the presidential palace. I can't believe people are not making a big deal about this. Of course, I know you didn't hear about these crucifixions on the mainstream media. I reported it the day after it happened. So what about John Brennan? Well, before I get to that, I want to share a story with you that I found coming out of Texas from CARE, where Muslim leaders made this outrageous claim in Texas. Texas. Now, you folks in Texas, I want to know what's going on down there. What is going on with you folks in Texas? I have always figured that Texas is a no-bull state. Not that there's no bulls there, but you don't take any bull. It's always been my opinion that you folks in Texas are the heart of America. That you are the ones that always stand up for what's right with no fear. But yet you allow these Muslims living. Here's what they say. Let me just share this story with everybody who's not in Texas. It says Muslims in America should not be bound by U.S. law, according to the leader of the Council of American Islamic Relations, CARE, who delivered this message to a crowd of Muslims in Austin, Texas. He said, if you're a practicing Muslim, you're above the law of the land. This came from Mustafa Carroll, executive director of the Dallas-Fort Worth CARE branch. The rally in Austin was part of a nationwide effort to hold Muslim Capital Day events. Now, according to the event website, Muslims from around Texas went to the Capitol to promote civic and political activism through the wider Muslim community. Now, before I go on with this, let's just take a look at that. The website says to promote civic and political activism through the wider Muslim community. They're pushing these people into civics, into politics, which is going to bring us to this Brennan story here in a minute. The organizers said one major issue discussed was the recent House-Senate bill proposals involving the implementation of anti-Sharia legislation, where the First Amendment rights of freedom of Muslims would ultimately be hindered. Well, critics argue that Sharia prohibits other faiths from free exercise of religion when enforced, giving freedom only to Muslims. Well, they deny that, but we know that's true. Now, they say that they coexist with other religions all the time, and that they've done it throughout the centuries in other countries, and that's absolutely true. However, in order for anybody of any other faith to reside in a Muslim country, you have to pay them a protection fee. This is a racket. It's a protection racket, just like it was in the 20s and 30s, where shop owners had to buy protection from the local gangs and the mafia. They say, we're going to come and bust up your store if you don't give us $100 a month. And we will bust up your store. And if the store proprietor says, no, I'm not giving you any money, get out of my shop, then they bust it up. Well, this is the same thing the Muslims do. Yeah, you can exist in our country, and you can be whatever faith you want if you pay us. If you don't pay us, then we're going to bust up your shop. We're going to bust up your home. We're going to kill you. You're going to get the regular Sharia treatment. That's beatings, beheadings, amputations, floggings, everything that comes with that. You have no protection unless you pay that fee. So when they say that they coexist with other religions, that's what that means. Because this whole Muslim thing, there's nothing upfront about any of it. Just like they say they don't kill innocent people. Oh, okay, well, that's really nice. Well, who do you consider innocent? Only other Muslims. So if you're not a Muslim, you're not innocent. And you have to be a good practicing Muslim. Because if you're anything else, then you're not innocent. The only ones that are innocent are other good practicing Muslims. Everyone else is guilty, man, woman, child, and all deserve death. And you get that death unless you pay this if you live in their Muslim country. And I'm not kidding. So, Carroll's statement that he made, this guy from Texas, from CARE, was similar to the statement that was made at the co-founder and chairman Omar M. Hamad. He was paraphrased by a reporter saying, Islam isn't in America to be equal to any other faith, but to become dominant. And the Quran should be the highest authority in America, and Islam the only accepted religion on earth. And this, my friends, is their goal. He began joking about the whispered concerns about Sharia, the religious code that governs civil and political life for Muslims. He said, we tried to downplay Sharia because we don't want to give others any excitement, undue excitement for us being here. He dismissed critics who expressed concern about Sharia, calling them anti-foreign. And when you say the word Sharia, here's what he said. When you say the word Sharia, people get nervous. We're not advocating for Sharia. We're not trying to make Sharia the law of the land, he said. Carroll claimed Muslims only want the right to practice our faith. Well, the right to practice their faith means Sharia government, Sharia law. It means our Constitution and Bill of Rights are out the window and Sharia is put into place, which is followed by beheadings, beatings, amputations, floggings, everything that comes along with that. Sharia is the foundation of Islam. It's the foundation of Islam. He also said, if you understand Sharia, the foundation of our faith, how we treat our neighbors, we treat our parents, how we participate in society, all of that is part of Sharia. Now, Carroll is on record defending Hamas, who's classified by the U.S. as a terrorist group. He said, I think you can only blame Hamas for so long. It takes two to tango. And I think you know that we've heard for a number of years is that terrorist, Hamas